Jaleel. I would have went with Okafor, but I'll say this, and we can move on. But I just feel like the Lakers are stuck with trying to make the most out of 1, possibly 2 years with Kobe, instead of just accepting the fact that we really need to burn this down and start over.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've tried to kind of do both things at once.
Yeah.
And hopefully, it works out with Russell and he does mature and be everything that he was touted as being, and we'll see. My number 2, I'm going to put Stanley Johnson right there. I was pleasantly surprised to see everything that he brought to the table. Being in the East, you're trying to find somebody that can do something. You're either trying to do it by committee or you're trying to have a wing player that can be a form of resistance to LeBron James.
Right.
So you need that 6'6" to 6'9" kid, and that's one thing that I mentioned in the earlier pod. It might have been the one with my brother, but Stanley Johnson was one of those guys that was probably a 6'8", 6'8 and a half, 6'9" in college. And then once he went to that combine, we found out that he was really 6'7".
Right.
That inch and a half, 2 inches makes a big difference. But I think he did come in. He had 2 20-point games.
Yep.
They're speaking of him as possibly a Kawhi Leonard type defender, Jay Crowder. And I just feel like as long as LeBron is in that Eastern Conference, as a Pistons fan, you're going to need to address that area on defense. And I just think we can benefit from, and I was a fan of Winslow going into the draft, but Stanley Johnson he showed that he's worth his salt at that 3, maybe even 2, 6'11" wingspan. He's being praised for his effort on defense. I will say there's question marks about his mid-range game right now, but I don't think the college game is really with the zone and the ability to defend a player with multiple players. The mid-range game is very shaky in the college ranks.
Yeah.
In the pros, you have that spacing. You can't guard a guy that doesn't have the ball, and it's different. And I think he'll be able to, to show that 18-foot jumper. There was some people that weren't as big on his athleticism. Maybe he's not a Vince Carter, but I think is solid.
I think he's fast, but he's not quick.
Right. I agree.
And I mean, from a shooting stance, yeah, that's been the question mark on him. But I mean, through summer league, again, small showcase
against other summer leaguers,
right? But I mean, 57%, 41 from 3, which was the big knock on him, was the 3-point shot. And I agree. Like when Winslow was on the board, I was like, oh man, they might take that guy. I knew that they had been looking at both of them.
I mean, that was the 3 was Oubre,
right.
Winslow, and him was right there together. Who would you get? I didn't think we had a shot at any of them except for maybe Oubre.
Oh, I mean, once the whole Kristaps Porzingis hype picked up, and it seemed like, because initially everybody was saying we were going to take him. Once he moved into the top 5 picks or so, I figured we'd get one of them.
Right.
But I honestly, Stanley Johnson surprised me. Like, his summer league outing and just things I've been reading about him. Like, I like him because he's got that attitude. He wants to be the best. Like, he's played pickup against LeBron.
Right.
And checked him and, I mean, did as well as you can do trying to guard LeBron James, but he wanted that challenge. He talked about every time he's on the court with him, he wants to guard him. And I think that attitude, that determination is going to drive him to be a good player.
You think he's a day one starter?
Well, I think it kind of depends on how our lineup goes. If we're gonna put the Morris brother at the 4 or the 3.
Yeah.
They brought, he was a 3 in Phoenix. I think we brought him as a stretch though.
Mm-hmm.
So between him and Ersan, one of them will be the starting 4, and if it goes that way, there's not really anybody in front of him.
But we can probably agree that Stanley could be probably the most important draft pick in the last 5 to 7 years. I mean, as far as with the transition to the smaller players, we really haven't had a meaningful wing player since going back to Grant Hill.
I like Tayshaun. I thought Tayshaun was legit in there. He wasn't getting a bunch of buckets,
right?
But yeah, I mean, look, and that's the other thing I really like about Stanley Johnson is like he wants to play defense, and he's that perfect mix of confident to where it almost becomes brash, but then he humbles himself. He says he needs to be a better playmaker. He wants to make better decisions with the ball. But he wants to be the best player in the league.
I would like to see them. I don't know if SVG does it. I don't know if he's the answer long term, whatever. But I just hope if this kid is a 18, 20 point a game guy, I just hope that we get in his ear to make him be a franchise type player, and he's there for a while. Losing Monroe really just ticks me off as a fan. Like we can't get the building process complete because we're losing, players that we're counting on. And who do we have left? Monroe's gone, but the other big,
like Drummond.
Yeah. So we're now we're on to him to see what he's going to be in the big scheme of things. We can move on and come back to our Pistons roundtable. Who do you have? What's your number one storyline?
Stanley Johnson was my number one too.
Okay.
So, but you touched on a lot of the things I was going to touch on. He had 10 assists, 9 steals, 5 blocks through that sample size. He did have 9 turnovers, but he's not expected to be a playmaker,
right? So
I don't necessarily mind those.
And he's handling the ball more in the summer league than he will ever do.
Right, they focused on him,
right?
And his matchup with Winslow, Winslow ended up hitting the game winner to win that game. But he checked him the whole time he was out there. Mm-hmm. And he took a lot more shots to get to his 20 than Stanley did to get to his. But a lot of Stanley's came from the line in that game. I just think it's going to be fun. I think that's going to be a comparison throughout their career.
I agree.
Like those guys are linked together. I've read a couple articles that really tried to break down the differences and how similar of a player they are. But some of that is all perspective, and that's kind of always the thing with stats and numbers. I can kind of make them say what I want them to say.
Exactly.
But, just from the stance of personalities, I think Winslow carries himself very well, but he seems very timid.
Okay.
And I want that guy that wants to go out there and start a fire.
Yeah, I agree. Hindsight is 2020. I feel like we got a player that we really need for what we need to do in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I think Justice will be great in Miami once he gets his role defined there. I'm excited. I think Stanley is a kid that, like I said, I think he brings us into the modern era of basketball, possibly, if everything works out well. I feel like we finally have that wing player that can do, it's kind of similar to a 5-tool player in baseball. Yeah. I just think ever since we missed on that draft with Wade, Melo, LeBron, right, and we went with Darko that we missed a chance to have that difference-making wing player, slasher, scorer. And I don't know if Stanley becomes a 23, 25 a night guy, right, but, this is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
For my number one, I'm going to go with the Curry brother. I think his performance has been eye-catching. He's averaged 25 a game.
Yeah.
He's been out of college, what, 3 years now?
Yep.
So he's doing it for New Orleans. I put him up there as my number one storyline because anytime a guy is scoring, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
I mean, getting buckets is pretty much job one.
He's fun to watch.
In the NBA, he is fun to watch. He hasn't shot the three-pointer as well as his brother. But like we said earlier, he's doing all of this against other journeymen and summer league level talent. I just don't feel like this translates to anything for him with the main New Orleans team. And Seth could just be a victim of opportunity, place, role, and all that stuff. And I don't know. I just would like. We always want to see that good story, somebody come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, I really don't understand. It's not like New Orleans really has a great guard.
No, and I mean, look, maybe he finds his way onto a roster somewhere as the 12th guy, but I think to solidify your point, while we were talking about this, I looked up his numbers while he was in the D-League. He was averaging 23 a game last season.
Right.
And nobody really called him up. He only played in 4 games in the league last year.
Wow.
And so he's blazing. I mean, he can score it. It's just his intangibles. There must be an IQ fall off somewhere.
That's what I like to get to the bottom of with Seth is what's going on with him. You're scoring. Another guy that scored a lot in the D League and the Summer League was the Crawford brother, the younger Crawford brother. He did a lot of scoring, but he hasn't been able to stick on with the main team in all of his stops. So
Jordan Crawford, we talking about?
Yeah. He scored well, but just hasn't been able to catch on. Another brother, being the brother of is it
Jamal?
Yeah. So that's my number one. Is just Seth Curry. It's just been you see somebody scoring at that clip in the summer league. It's it's easier to watch those games. To close it out, man, we can get into some random things that have caught your eye outside of our top 3. For me, Porzingis, man. I mean, we were looking at 4 or 5. We were looking at 4 or 5 years. Phil Jackson looked a little crazy or kooky. Porzingis, I mean, he won't be a lead player, but one thing that he confirmed for me was I see that willingness to get in there, and until I can get it together as a major contributor, he's willing to protect the rim.
Yeah.
He does need to rebound a little bit better. And I see they're trying to get him another 10 to 15 pounds by training camp.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's got to bulk up to really get in there.
I don't know if that happens. But I felt like he to be a Latvian, he interacted well with his teammates. He seems very westernized. And I think he gets some playing time next year.
Oh, yeah. That was a guy I wanted to talk about, too. Look, if I'm not, but if I was a Knick fan, I'd stop yelling at that kid. Like, I'd start turning that around. Like, feel good about that guy. I know he didn't shoot it great through his summer league exhibition, and that's kind of what he's been touted as, this guy that can score from anywhere. But look, we've seen him shoot. All right, he can score. They just weren't falling. Call it nerves, call it whatever you want to, bad stretch of games. That's going to come with a guy that can shoot, that we've seen shoot that well before.
Right.
The other stuff, the fact that he's willing to get in there and guard Jahlil Okafor, the fact that he's blocking Jahlil Okafor's shot 2 times each game, and the fact that he's passing the ball and talked about trying to make his teammates better and just wanting to win. That's what you need. You need guys that just know how to play the game.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so I was impressed with him.
Yeah, like I said, I think he contributes this year in some capacity. my last one, my last